Spooky season is coming, so you know what this means. So I absolutely needed to do a Halloween video. Have you ever found yourself playing a video game and you saw something in said video game that really traumatized you? It doesn't even have to be like when you were a kid. It can be any video game that you played that gave you like an uneasy feeling for some reason. I have, which is why I want to share with you my top 13 most unsettling moments in video games. So these are my personal opinions. You might not agree with them, but I just wanted to do something fun and kind of share my own list. Feel free to start a discussion in the comments below. However, any negative comment will be deleted. So without further ado, this is my top 13 most unsettling things in video games. Number 13, the looping stairs. When asked for creepy things in Super Mario 64, a lot of people will talk about Big Boo's haunt, the evil murderous piano, or even the creepy lava painting in the basement. But one thing that people often fail to mention is the looping stairs. They're an obstacle located behind the final big star door, which leads to the last level of the game, and are accessible after owning 70 power stars. However, if the player has fewer than 70 power stars, they will be stuck in this never-ending loop where an illusion is created, forcing the player to believe that they are climbing the stairs forever, never actually reaching the top. But what makes this terrifying is the haunting, repetitive note sequence that plays as you climb. This loop can be broken by doing the backwards jump glitch, but it requires practice and not everyone is able to do it. Regardless, the looping stairs were the developer's way of making sure the player plays by the rules, which spooked a lot of us even to this day, earning number 13 on our list. Number 12, Queen Vanessa's Manor. A Hat in Time is generally a wholesome, colorful, even comedic platformer that won the hearts of people all around the globe. While exploring various levels from the game, we follow our protagonist, Hat Kid, in a quest to find and recollect the timepieces that she's lost. After a fun and quirky meeting with Snatcher, the major antagonist from the third chapter Subcon Forest, Hat Kid is trapped and forced into signing a contract in exchange for her soul, although he promises to give it back if she completes a series of simple objectives listed on the contract itself. One of those objectives has the goal to retrieve a timepiece from Queen Vanessa's manor. Upon activating the challenge, we have to follow a path leading to a frozen village, and eventually we come across the giant manor itself. When Hat Kid first enters the basement, we can definitely recognize that the sound design is different from any other level. Instead of a bright and lively soundtrack, we are met with a spooky and eerie ambiance as we explore the manor. As we walk close enough to one of the doors, the player will encounter Queen Vanessa for the first time, who will initially question the reason of Hat Kid being in the manor in the first place. What started as an innocent scouting for the timepiece will quickly turn into a game of cat and mouse. As the player progresses through the mansion to reach the attic, Queen Vanessa will inevitably pop up from different doors, chasing the player, and the music will suddenly turn into a loud, metallic screeching while you frantically look for a place to hide. This chapter is not for the faint of heart and feels out of place compared to the other locations from the game. And for this reason, Queen Vanessa's Manor is and will indefinitely remain one of the most unsettling levels in A Hat in Time. Number 11, Vault 22. Vault 22 is a side quest in Fallout New Vegas, normally done by the player to find a rare, unique energy weapon at the end. There are a multitude of weird areas to visit in the Fallout series, but Vault 22 definitely takes the cake as one of the most disturbing places to exist in the game. After accessing the various terminals to find some of Scientist Keely's journal entries, we learn that the vault used to be the home to a variety of plant life and wild animals. It was built by scientists who specialized in herbology and crop production. They came together to create Bovaria mordicana, which was a fungus designed for pest control. This was done to try and combat the famine across the Mojave wasteland. And it worked pretty well until the specimen's fungal spores became airborne and spread from person to person through air vents, rendering them very sick. This resulted in an untreatable infection spreading through the vault like wildfire. While exploring the Forgotten Vault, the player can find plants growing everywhere, as well as mutated corpses of former vault residents, now called spore carriers, whose bodies have been overtaken by the green fungus now growing all over them. While it may not be scary per se, it is definitely disturbing, and we can't help but feel bad for the innocent, infected victims from Vault 22 who tragically lost their lives due to yet another scientific experiment gone wrong. Number 10. Stop and Go Station. Stop and Go Station is the 9th level of Donkey Kong Country and the 4th level in Monkey Mines. The level takes place in a mine shaft, and in comparison to other levels, this one feels out of place. As you enter Stop and Go Station, the atmosphere feels off. The colors are muted, dark, and the usual catchy music is replaced by a symphony of unnerving tin sounds and white noise, which further develops into sinister and depressing overtones. As if the location itself wasn't creepy enough, you eventually come into contact with the Rock Croc, who cannot be attacked and kills you instantly if touched. The only way to force it into submission is to hit the barrels throughout the level to turn on the red lights to stop them from moving, allowing you to cross their paths without being harmed. The whole level in its entirety is just disturbing, weird, but after finding a decompressed version of the soundtrack, which sounds like this. It just makes me want to go and hide under 10 layers of blankets and never come out again. Stop and Go Station, more like Stop and Nope Station, because there is actually a shortcut that allows you to turn left, leave from the door, and it takes you to the end of the level. I guess the developers knew Stop and Go Station would terrorize kids and were nice enough to allow us to skip it. Number 9. Big Octo. While being one of the most underrated Legend of Zelda games, The Wind Waker is a gem in itself. Filled with adventurous quests and peaceful sailing in the Great Sea, it makes for a super fun open-world video game. In contrary to the other games from the series, Wind Waker appears to be more cartoonish, bright, and gleeful. While trying to rescue his kidnapped sister Aerol from the Forsaken Fortress, Link goes through a series of levels that will test his courage. To get to the different locations the game has to offer, the player has to use the King of Red Lions, a boat that can converse with Link and guide him through the Great Sea. This vast ocean has a lot of beautiful places to explore, but also a bunch of dangerous sea monsters, such as sea hats, sharks, a ghost ship, and even a giant cyclone. But the most terrifying thing is when the player spots a flock of seagulls in the distance. Most players are going to be curious and try to engage with it. Upon doing this, proceed with caution, because if you get too close, the seemingly good weather will quickly turn into a rainstorm. You will be pulled into a large whirlpool, and a giant squid will appear, controlling the current to try and suck you into his mouth. The only way to escape is to shoot all of its eyes, which are its weak spots. If you don't do it in time, the Big Octo will eat you and spit you out at a random location on the map. There is a total of 6 Big Octos inhabiting the waters of the Great Sea, and while being intimidating foes, they offer great rewards and loot. After acquiring the Octo chart, however, and knowing where they are on the map, they quickly lose their initial fear factor. But for people who are playing the game for the first time, sailing in the wrong direction just might potentially scar unknowing young players for the rest of their lives. Number 8. The Executioner. For any Alice Madness Returns season players, it's no surprise that the game is not your typical bright and happy story. Based on a story that we know only too well, it offers a much more sinister and disturbing version of Disney's Alice in Wonderland. After the untimely death of her family, Alice, who has been discharged from a psychiatric clinic and now lives in an orphanage for mentally traumatized orphans, revisits Wonderland, descending into the depths of madness to confront and heal from her traumas. Throughout the game, we visit a bunch of beautiful places with stunning sceneries and meet up with some familiar faces as well, such as the Cheshire Cat, the Mad Hatter, and the Queen of Hearts from Queensland. In the latter, a new enemy is introduced to us under the name of the Executioner. In addition to his immense size, this extremely resistant enemy is invincible in the early stage of the level, which means that Alice has no choice but to escape him while he chases her around with his powerful scythe. The Executioner pops up at random, giving the player a scare each time, and the feeling of being completely powerless against such a strong enemy really makes you feel helpless. After eating the Eat Me cake in the Majestic Maze later in the game, Alice grows to a larger size, now able to confront him. But, needless to say, first-time players are often shocked by this behemoth of an enemy, and returning ones are filled with anxiety at the sight of him, making the Executioner number 8 on our list. Number 7. Mailboxes. The Mother series is known for its unsettling nature, and a lot of people will remember how the game made them feel, especially coming into contact with Gygas. However, in Mother 3, there is something I think goes beyond anything that we've seen before. Our party, Lucas, Princess Kumatora, Duster, and Boney, are stranded on Tanetane Island. Already in a bad spot, the entire party is at 1 HP and has no items other than equipment. As they scavenge the island for food, our heroes find some energizing mushrooms, but they look odd to say the least. However, with nothing else to eat, they consume them and are immediately overcome by a strange sensation. Their stats are automatically restored and everything seems just dandy, but they bump into what seems to be a ghostly vision of Flint, which turns into an eerie smile that you have to battle. Once beaten, you are now free to explore the island, which turns out to be more trippy than anticipated. We are met with a lot of familiar faces, only Boney keeps barking at them like mad. We quickly realize that they are hallucinations that say nonsensical and twisted things. This is accompanied by running into mailboxes along the way that reinforce the level of creepiness with their eerie messages. As our party makes their way throughout the island, they eventually meet up with Mixolydia, one of the Megipsies, and she brings us back to our senses. Overall, the fact that a video game found a way to innocently incorporate psychological horror as well as depressing quotes inside its level has a way of making us feel hopeless, lost, and uneasy even at the other side of the screen. And if that isn't enough to scare you, I don't know what will.